The internet is an extremely noisy place. So, how can you stand out from the crowd and be unforgettable with your brand? Welcome back to Listen to Leo. In today's episode, I wanted to step back into the past. For those of you who don't know, I'm also the host of a podcast called How to Scale Yourself. Done a couple seasons, and I decided to revisit some of the old episodes and really dig in and pull out some of the best lessons that I've learned from running those interviews. So in this episode, I wanted to step back into the past and share some highlights from my conversation with Sophia O'Neal. Sophia is the founder of an agency called Ignore No More, and her agency is focused on helping SaaS founders create a brand that is impossible to ignore. And being impossible to ignore encompasses so many different areas. I thought this conversation was absolutely incredible at highlighting some of those. And I've really taken these lessons and applied them to everything that I'm doing. So I thought that you'd enjoy them as well. So in this first clip, I wanted to know more about what a brand was, kind of from the standpoint of trust. If you've listened to enough of my stuff before, you know I'm a big believer in trust being an incredibly important part of your presence online. Building up that trust is extremely important. So what does trust mean from a branding perspective?
But I think overall trust as a branding perspective it's trusting that you're going to solve my problems, that you're going to solve them with this perspective, this attitude, this personality in this way consistently.
For the second clip, I was really curious about what it takes as an indie hacker to develop their marketing channels. Where should they focus? The kind of context of the conversation was that I was a little wary of spending all my time on social media. Thought it wasn't always a great channel for building trust because it's typically a low trust environment. When you're in the social media environment, you're constantly mistrusting everything you see because so many people misrepresent themselves on there. And so you're not really experiencing it from a point of trust. And so from that standpoint, as an indie hacker, what marketing channels should you start with? I'll let Sophia take it from here.
I usually recommend that founders, as part of their 3-channel starter marketing plan, only have one: social media. And then that's the one you focus on. That's the one you're on. If you want to save handles on another one, then go for it. But just be on one. And so for the agency, for me, it's Twitter. That's it. That's it. And then once you've nailed those 3, then maybe you can add on one more. Maybe you can add on LinkedIn. Maybe you can add on Reddit. But starting out, I suggest doing things like cold email. I suggest doing powered by marketing. I suggest doing SEO and things like about to trend SEO and, product hub SEO, not necessarily your standard blog post writing stuff. I suggest doing things like podcast appearances and presentations.
Okay, so one thing that really stood out to me in this conversation was how Sophia got started in kind of the direct to consumer market. And that's really where the products that stood out spoke to her in very specific ways. And so I was really curious as to how that translates into the SaaS world. As an indie hacker, we're probably not doing a lot of direct to consumer. I'll look at plans for that. We'll see how this goes. But for the most part, not a lot of direct to consumer stuff. So how do some of these principles appear in the direct to consumer market? And how can we translate those into SaaS?
I'd say there's 2 waves from the direct to consumer and then how they translate into SaaS. So first off, with direct to consumer, I started out with, we're more sustainable, we're faster, it's online, you can see everything. And that really, really set them apart. It was very distinct. And then the second wave came with, there's so much more competition in the space. So how do we stand out from all of the other players in like mattresses or glasses or that kind of stuff? And that is when the copy really went up a notch. That's when the branding went up a notch, when the color scheme, but mostly the emotional connection. Because there are other people who are saying the same things. How are you connecting emotionally? And that is the part that I think SaaS and in general, the corporate world has missed for so long. I would say it translates into what are the core desires that the person wants. And there are several. Usually it's they want more money, they want more time, they want more energy, they want to be liked. And then what are they trying to avoid? They're trying to avoid feeling left out. They're trying to avoid wasting money, wasting time, not having enough energy to accomplish their goals. And I think that direct to consumer has been really, really good at tapping into what do people want? What do people want to feel? How do people want to look? Because it's possessions. And for SaaS, that translates into how do they want to feel at work? It's the same concept. How do they want to look at work? Just connecting with people and tying it into their workplace or tying it into those things that they're already doing.
When it comes to running an agency, there's so much going on that it's really impossible for the founder to do everything. And I wanted to get her opinion on what it took to really scale out an agency's offering and how she thought of it. And I've got to say, I loved her answer here. It is completely in line with my own heart. And so I figured you'd appreciate it as well.
So I had a general concept of like, okay, what are the business structures, business departments, big air quotes that
Right.
I'm going to need. And then I've worked at small agencies before. So I got a really good idea of like, okay, I like this. I don't like this. Here's how they scaled. Here's how they didn't scale. And then other than that, mostly my approach to like building out my team and automating things. I love automating. There's not a standard operating procedure I haven't fallen in love with. And I use Notion to run my business because of the templates and databases.
So nice.
So nice. But it's mostly like, what am I really freaking fantastic at? Okay. What am I horrible at? And what can I sort of manage to get past? Okay. What's the fastest way I can automate or outsource the stuff I'm terrible at? How can I spend most of my time doing the stuff I'm great at? Because that's going to be the stuff that makes me money.
Mhm.
And then the stuff in the middle, can I get it and automate it to a point where it runs enough, it runs good enough so that I can make enough money to then outsource that too. So long term, I'm only doing the stuff I'm great at. And like other people who are better than me doing the stuff I'm not.
Finally, Sophia is the head of the Ignore No More agency. Her whole thing is about building an unignorable, unforgettable brand. And so I wanted to know, what does that mean to her?
What's the number one thing you want people to remember when they think of your name? When they think of the company name, what do you want them to remember and get excited about? And if you've nailed that, then you have nailed the core kernel of your brand and you can build it out from there. Branding doesn't have to be this enormous mind map for indie hackers and indie founders. When they say your product name, what do you want them to remember about you? How do you want to have made them feel? Nail that and you can scale it from there and be unignorable and unforgettable.
All right. Hope you enjoyed those highlights. I know I certainly enjoyed going over them again and pulling them out of the archives. It was such a great conversation, and it was exciting for me to be able to relive them. Would love to know, though, what stood out the most to you. Drop a comment, let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.